we've moved back to the back room here. Where I sound like I'm farting all the time. I'm not. It's the chair. Back is killing me. Um, but by God, is it ever interesting to research Norm Macdonald? I'm a little bit worried to name a video after Norm Macdonald because he's so popular. I might be discovered, and the last thing I want to be is discovered. But uh, start with the mundane, I guess. The only joke that Norm Macdonald ever told about Donald Trump was that Americans hated Hillary Clinton so much that they elected someone they hated more. It's a good joke. He said that this is on a CTV. Most of it's from a CTV thing. I haven't got out my notes actually. Have to do some of this from memory. Um, what I looked up was his comments on Trudeau and on Trump. And this is some of the stuff he discovered. Uh, Obviously, really obviously, Norm Macdonald had a lot of affection for Donald Trump. You don't want to believe that? Go ahead. CTV, it was an interview as it happened, the CTV, that really kind of sparky French blonde woman, maybe she's 50 or something. She's got that real, sort of a guttural laugh. It's always so nice in a attractive woman to have that sort of guttural, honest laugh. Absolutely fantastic person. Happens to be his sister-in-law. If you watch it, I think what you're going to see is Norm Macdonald having a panic attack. I think that he was really falling apart, but he was saying what he meant. So, among the questions that he was asked, God, did I not even... is it more or less difficult to be a comedian in the age of Trump? And he said, well, if you want to be a smart comedian, you should stay away from talking about Trump because he is trolling the shit out of you constantly, and you are so dumb you can't see it. Norm played the sort of a dumb character, but in fact, what he liked to do in his spare time was read. He was an incredibly intelligent person. And what he said is that if somebody's engaged in self-parody and you take it seriously, you are dumb. So I don't know, it's probably less and less all the time, but Donald Trump joking about how he's the center of the world and it all comes back to him. Sometimes he's serious, right? He's a genuinely narcissistic person. But a lot of the time, hey dummies, he's joking. And you even think, not to mention to talk about it, but to try to make a comedy routine, thinking that he means his delusions of grandeur 100%. I bet that there's an ironic sense to what difference does a number make? 90% of what he comes across, what they interpret as being egotistical, he's being funny. Norm remembers him from the old Saturday Night Live when it was funny. He said, yeah, Donald Trump was a well-loved eccentric. He fixed the skating rink in Central Park when the city couldn't do it. And yeah, he was a well-loved person around in New York. And then Norm gets into something that's really serious politics. I don't think politics was his forte at all. But what he said was that he didn't think that Donald Trump wanted to be president or expected to be president. And when he was elected, he was surprised. And during that time, he said, well, if he loses the election, it was rigged. And I do believe that there were people at that time who were a bit threatening. If he loses, it's because the election was rigged. And there's some of us are going to be violent about that. Obviously, scary as hell. Irresponsible on his part. Just, unbelievable. I don't want to come across too much like I'm standing up for Trump, but so when he was running against Hillary Clinton, he said if he lost, it was because the election was rigged, and they all said that's absolutely ridiculous. You can't rig an American election. You're crazy. You don't want to create this kind of conflict. And they said that constantly. It's just, this is so stupid. Mainstream media said his idea that the election was rigged was crazy until he got elected. And the day that he got elected, because he was going to go after the swamp, is what he said. When they found out that he was elected, they switched immediately to the Russian collusion story on the election. We had 3 years of that, the Democrats dragging that through court and saying that there was Russian collusion in the election. We had 3 years of that, and we know that was we know it's a fraud now. I can see why people thought that, but it was really started by the Steele dossier, where the FBI and Hillary Clinton got together, fabricated a story about Donald Trump and Russian prostitutes. It went on from there. And we went for 3 years of them saying that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians to win the election. Right? That's what happened. I mean, he was saying things like, okay, Russians, if you can hack into Hillary's emails, go ahead. What difference did it make to Donald Trump? Those were improperly stored emails that she deleted when they asked for. He was probably half joking when he said that. But they continued on with the story that there was collusion there. It was proven that he didn't. And then there was an election, and after the election, he said that the election was rigged, which in this case, it fucking well was. And they all said, oh no, that's absolutely crazy. There's no way that happened. And so they just switched back and forth. When he said that if Hillary Clinton won, it was rigged, right? This is Norm Macdonald had this insight, okay? When he was saying that Hillary rigged it, they said, oh, poo-poo. When he got elected, the whole thing was he colluded with the Russians. Are you nuts? Do you actually think they were saying that he was a puppet of Vladimir Putin? Really? You think Donald Trump was a puppet of anybody? 3 years of that, all kinds of court cases. Next thing you know, there's another election. It is fraudulent as hell for reasons that I've described 1,000 times and reasons that are obvious. And suddenly the idea that it was rigged is a big bunch of bullshit. I mean, I've been doing this character for years now, and honestly, I'm still flabbergasted at the insanity of the whole thing. I cannot get my head around it. So then, it's from a different article, but oh no, to finish the CTV, so they asked him about Trudeau, and he said, well, he certainly does not appear to have inherited the flinty intellect of his father. And no, he's not funny. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is obviously a funny and entertaining person. That's the opinion of Norm Macdonald. He said, if you want to do serious comedy, don't attack Trump. You're going to look like a moron. Tell you one thing, Norm was self-deprecating. He didn't like to be thought of as a moron. Not as a real moron. He said that Trump is funny because he's deluded, which is whatever percent. Let's give it 50%. You can laugh at him because he's so narcissistic half the time. This is how Norm put it. You can laugh at him because he's self-deluded half the time, but when he's being a parody of himself and you laugh at him, you're the moron. This is really just so creepy. Like, have you ever been sort of self-deprecating about yourself and somebody took you seriously and you just... What? Like, you're just thinking, like, did this actually happen? What am I talking to here? Okay, so when he talked about Trudeau, he said, I really loved his father. His father was really a funny person, and he liked the joke that Pierre Trudeau told about he had sex in a canoe one time. And the interviewer asked him, well, geez, how did you do that? And Pierre Trudeau said, well, you have to be very good at canoeing. I think Pierre Trudeau was a smart communist. So what he said about Justin Trudeau is that, I admired his father so much. So I thought, Justin Trudeau would be great too. He must have inherited the intelligence of his father. It's going to be fantastic. But then he remembered he had a mother too, didn't he? And he inherited his mother's narcissism and his father's communism. It would have been so much preferable if he had inherited his father's intellect and his mother's compassion for the mentally ill, which he is mentally ill. He didn't like the Alec Baldwin impersonation on Saturday Night Live because if you want, according to Norm, I can dump this on Norm, if you're going to impersonate somebody, you have to like that person. And Alec Baldwin didn't like Donald Trump, so his impersonation wasn't funny, it wasn't accurate. I don't agree with that. I think this impersonation was hilarious a lot of the time. Oh my God, that's all I've written down, Justin, his brother, his father, all had book deals with the Chinese Communist Party. Look, we'll stroke your ego, you stroke ours, you pay us, and we'll get along fine. Jean Chrétien is living in Beijing, has been for a while. I think sometimes people make a mistake about Quebec, thinking that it's so, sophisticated French thing, right? But I don't know. Like, I would imagine that the guys in Beijing, the first time he said "wah wah," he's lucky he didn't wind up in the barbecue. I guess French Canadians sound like ducks. They don't say "oui oui, monsieur." They say "wah wah wah wah." The guy that impersonates French Canadian French better than anybody is Gavin McInnes, founder of the Proud Boys, a closeted gay drinking club that stands up for Western civilization. That's what closeted gay. I don't think they're all that closeted. They all drink, and they're going to stand up for Western civilization. Really, it's hard to get what the hell is wrong with people. I think that the Proud Boys is a terrorist organization in Canada. Antifa isn't. Oh my God. Okay. Goodbye.